Hey everyone, Dr. Cleworth again. Welcome back. This is the second tech tutorial in the HUM 108 course orientation. And in this screencast, we're going to be talking about Packback. So Packback is a AI-assisted writing tool that really focuses on compelling students to follow their curiosity and to ask really interesting, penetrating questions about the content that they are exploring in their respective classes. And we're going to use Packback for two types of assignments in this class. We're going to use it for the Packback discussion or Packback question that's going to be part of each and every learning unit. And we're also going to be using it for the larger writing assignments called think pieces. And you can look at the course syllabus to kind of get an overview of what these two assignment categories are about. Again, Packback questions and the think pieces. So let's go ahead and dive into the tool. Once again, we're at Canvas. This is the home page. We're going to click on modules. And here's the course orientation again, which you are by now very familiar with. And here's Learning Unit 1, the birth of the modern world. So I'm going to scroll down to the second part of the learning unit. So this is basically week 2 of learning unit 1. And if I scroll down far enough, I find the first Packback assignment. And the Packback questions are always going to be indicated with a question mark, so you kind of know what we're working with here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the assignment link. And this is going to be a little bit different than Perusal. I have Packback configured right now to launch directly within Canvas rather than opening up in a separate tab because it seems to work pretty well. I may change that if I get some feedback from any of you that it's better to have a separate tab open for the tool. We'll just play it by ear and see how it goes. But either way, whether in Canvas or in a separate tab, this is essentially what you're going to see. So on the main page here, you're going to get your welcome message, and you're going to see the 3 types of major activities that Packback supports: polls, writing assignments, discussion assignments. When you log into Packback for the first time, you're automatically generating a user account, so there's nothing that you need to do to actually sign up. What we're going to focus on in this tutorial is the discussion assignments. The writing assignments for think pieces, the tool is almost exactly the same in terms of the interface. So if you can master the discussion assignments, you'll later be able to use writing assignments for your think pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and click on discussion assignments. And this is pretty much what you're going to see. You're not going to see kind of the manage assignments tool here because that's for your faculty members. First thing you're going to really note, though, is 2 tabs, open and closed. Open assignments are assignments that are active, open, and available for you to respond to and complete right now. Closed assignments are ones that have a due date that have already passed, or they're assignments that we're going to be doing in the future. Either way, you can't access them. So we're going to go ahead and click on the first Packback assignment. And what you'll see here is the label, so you know which unit it's associated with. You're going to see the deadlines and what's due. Now here is something that is really important. And unfortunately, I haven't fixed this yet, but it's really key when you dig into these assignments. So the start date is basically the date that the assignment opens. You will always have a minimum of 7 days to work with a Packback assignment. So it's not like you have to wait until the deadline in order to access the Packback assignment for the learning unit. So you almost always 7 days. The due date is almost always going to be Tuesday, as is the due date for most of our assignments in HUM 108, at least for now. If that ever changes, I'll either redo the video or I will make a class announcement. Now here's the thing though, and this is really important. You have 1 question and 2 responses due for all of your Packback question assignments. Your question is always due before your responses, okay? So in this case, your responses are due by the final deadline, which in this case is Tuesday, September 9th at 11:59 p.m. So I need to go back and fix this, but what you need to know is your question will always be due 24 hours before the final deadline. So in this case, you got to get your question in by 11:59 p.m. on Monday, September 8th, for example. Okay? And the reason for that is we've all been in classes with standard discussion boards, and we're supposed to reply to our colleagues. We log in, it's about an hour till the deadline, and no one has posted anything yet. And you're freaking out because I've got to get my response posts in and no one has said anything, or it's the same person that I responded to the last 5 assignments. So what this is going to do is make sure that all of our questions are in and are ready to be responded to 24 hours before the final deadline. So if you log in on, say, September 9th, you're going to see everyone's questions. You'll have a lot to choose from. So I'll have to go back and fix this deadline for the first question being due. Okay, so just make sure that you are aware of that. I will reiterate that at multiple points throughout the course, in class announcements and assignment descriptions, so on and so forth. So when you pop into your first Packback question assignment, you're going to see this thing called a guidepost, and it's going to tell you the important information. I got 1 question due, I need 2 responses, I need a minimum curiosity score of 70 points, and I'm going to tell you what a curiosity score is in just a moment. And then you have the deadlines, and again, I got to fix this one here because it needs to be Monday, September 8th rather than the 1st. Okay? So what we're looking at here is the guidepost. And if I click on it, it's going to give you my instructions for completing the assignment. And the first thing you're going to see is my information about how you write good questions. You need to write questions that are open-ended. They have to be rooted in the content that we're focusing on. They need to be curious and compelling. And they need to be paired with a thoughtful description. And then I go on to tell you what I want you guys to be focusing on. We're going to be watching this documentary called Bright Lights, Brilliant Minds, Vienna 1908. And your question needs to be drawn from that video. So the cool thing here is you are generating the questions. I'm not telling you what to be interested in. I'm simply giving you some parameters through which to think through what your curiosity might be. Okay? So you have the question guidepost here, and then it's just some reminders that, your initial question is due 24 hours before the final deadline. You got 2 response posts due, and you need this curiosity score. Okay? I'm going to close that. So after I read the guidepost, I am now ready to write a question. Voila. And I got a couple text boxes here. One for my question, and then a text box for the question description. And this is where I justify my question. I tell everyone why it's interesting, why it's engaging, or what triggered my curiosity, or what part of my background led me to ask this question. I can also provide my colleagues with resources, links to other material. I can embed images. I can do all sorts of things to kind of structure the question description in such a way to make people feel compelled to answer it. The thing you must not do in the description field is answer your own question. That's not the point, because your colleagues are going to be trying to answer or engage your actual question. All right, so I'm going to type in a question here, and I'm going to ask, when is the first assignment for Packback due? I really have trouble keeping track of deadlines. It would be helpful if all of you kept me on track. Okay, there we go. So as you can imagine, this is not a great question, and it's not a great question description. First of all, this is basically a question about operational information. It's a question that has a definitive answer. It's not open-ended. And then my description isn't really great either. So as you're typing along, you get instant feedback, and you can see this little pop-up here. And when you click on it, it's going to tell you, it's going to give you some feedback about what you could do to improve your post. So right here is the curiosity score. Curiosity scores run from 0 to 100. you need a minimum curiosity score of 70 in order to get the bulk of your credit for this assignment. So you're going to have all these tips now about how to get your curiosity score up. So your curiosity score is based on curiosity itself, credibility of any sources that you provide, and your communication. That's the flow of your question description, how it's organized, whether you use any images, whether you're using captions to help people move sequentially through your thought processes, so on and so forth. Convention is basically grammar, and you do not get curiosity points for grammar. We don't want to penalize you for sloppy writing in Packback because we don't want to inhibit your curiosity, but nonetheless you need to know if you have grammar and mechanics issues. When we get to the larger writing assignments, what we call think pieces, we don't have curiosity points, but you will find conventions as a graded part of your assignment. So if you click any of these caret drop downs, it'll tell you what the problem is. Uh-oh, I got a closed-ended question. Uh-oh, my question is about class logistics. It's not about class content. Uh-oh, I need a more detailed description. So, okay, Packback AI, you've given me some guidelines here to get my curiosity score up. Let's see if I can improve things. So I'm going to ask, what sort of cultural problems was Gustav Klimt, he's going to be an artist that you're going to learn about, trying to solve in some of his most iconic paintings like The Kiss. Okay, and I need a question mark at the end. And then in my question description, I've cheated. I've already come up with something, so I'm just going to paste that in just so I can keep this tutorial under 15 minutes. And now I'm going to go check my feedback again. Voila! I'm in the 71 to 100 curiosity score point range. I'm in good shape. And see, look, nice description, no close-end question. Now, one thing I could do better, I don't have a source. I'm not linking out to a source about Klimt. I'm not referencing any articles. That's something I can do to up my curiosity score. Communication. So I can improve my readability with formatting. I could add some media to my post, but my actual writing is in an active voice, and Packback AI likes that. So you basically have your own AI desktop assistant helping you out with your questions and your writing. And guess what? When you get over to the think pieces in the essays in Packback, you're going to get the same type of real-time feedback about your sources, about the quality of your writing, about the logic of your arguments, so on and so forth. So this is basically how Packback's going to work. So I'm going to close the assistant here. And when I've done everything that I'm ready to do, I'm just going to click Submit Post. I'm going to submit it now. And here I see my post. I'm going to go back to the main discussion. And what all of you will eventually see, as more and more of you start posting your questions, you're going to see a feed here with all the questions that are asked. So you can click on a specific question, and this is where you're going to add your responses. 2 of them are required. So as you go through the questions and find ones that are interesting to you, click on this button and respond to your fellow colleagues. You can do all sorts of things with your posts when you add a response. You can argue, you can reaffirm, you can add additional sources, so on and so forth. You can upvote questions that you think are particularly good. You can star them if you think they should be pinned to the top of the feed. All of that is really good stuff that makes this a lot more interactive. Anytime you see an apple, you'll know that that's a post that I have included in the chat. Ultimately, I will be providing all of you with both public and private feedback on your posts. You'll get email notifications when that feedback is available to you. I think this is enough to get you started in Packback. Gives you some familiarity with the interface so that you can begin exploring the first Packback assignment. As usual, if you have any questions or concerns, reach out to me in the Canvas inbox, and I will be glad to help you out. I look forward to chatting in Packback.